Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahushai, Bahashum, Arachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the awful elect tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And I just want to, bring this article out, because I know I've been noticing, the drastic surge in the value of silver, and now also copper as well. All right, which are two metals, that this new AI revolution, this new industry, that is going to, be the new wave as far as, this new global infrastructure. Silver and copper are very essential. They're very vital to this new AI transformation. All right. So the demand is actually going up for these metals. And so you see in the value is surging. And I believe silver for 1 ounce is now up to $71 per ounce. And that's double the amount of what it was worth, months ago. And you go check back maybe, 6-7 months ago, or at the beginning of the year, silver was half the price that you see now. All right, the premium prices, it was a lot lower. So this is only a sign that, we're in the midst of a global shift. All right. And the dollar is basically it's in its terminal stages. All right, because it's going to take a lot more dollars in measure, just to be able to get you a piece of silver. All right, gold is crazy right now. I believe it's damn near 5,000 per ounce. So yeah, this dollar is getting ready to become obsolete. All right, the inflation. All right, the de-dollarization from these other countries that are trading in alternative currencies. So it's a reason why eventually they're gonna just go completely digital. They have all these different pilot programs that they've been rolling out over the past 5 years to get you conditioned to this new system. So I'm gonna just go through this article, and then we'll definitely get some scriptures, of course. But you got to pay attention to these type of things, because these are major indicators. We're in the midst of a global transformation. So it says silver and copper are both flashing the same signal, and that is setting the stage for widespread panic on Wall Street. All right. And, once that happens, it tells you in Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, it talks about how in the evil day, the keepers of the house shall tremble. Let's go to that real quick. This is Ecclesiastes 12, and starting at 1, it says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain." That's why you want to come into this thing as a young man and get this wisdom, because, knowledge and wisdom is going to be our stability. That's going to be really, the currency that you really want to have is this wisdom, this knowledge. It's more far precious and more valuable than rubies or any amount of silver or even gold. All right, there's knowledge here. And you want to, get that while you're in your youth. because you get older in society, you get set in your ways. All right, and then you start to lose your faculties slowly but surely, because we're in these decrepit, feeble bodies. All right, but you know, we're in that time where knowledge is increasing, so you want to get it now before the evil days come. It says, verse 3, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. And you look at the reports that are constantly going out, how so many people are being laid off at these different corporations. AI is basically taking over everything, and people are being replaced. And simultaneously, they're testing these UBI systems in various places. Marshall Islands. They just recently came out with a report that they're testing a new UBI system there. $200 in stable coin or something to that effect. So it's going to be all digital, because they about to do away with the petrodollar. It's only a matter of time. So them at Wall Street, they're going to start to panic at some point. All right, they seeing all these they seeing a surge in these metals, and they're seeing that the dollar is losing its purchasing power. People are going to continue to complain that the food prices, the price of oil, everything is going up. Gas, the housing market is jacked up. People can't even afford to buy homes, let alone rent. People got to live in hotels, motels, or just pay for storage units and live in those. This is how bad it's gotten, man, and that's in the scripture. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Take balm for her pain. So there's nothing that's going to be able to ease, the effects of this bruising that the Lord laid upon this wicked place. So people are going to start to feel the effects of this. It says, and the grinders cease because they are few. All these jobs, the unemployment rate, they continue to lie about it. There's a lot of people that's without work. But, they'll lie to you and say that, no, the job forces are looking very stable. No, it ain't. It's a lot of people that's without work. That's why crime is going up. All right, and it's few workers, so it's a lot of people that are idle. They don't have nothing to do. So you got a bunch of people that are destitute, and they ain't got nothing to do. They don't have nothing productive to do. You better believe they got enough time to get into trouble. It says, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Yeah, there's no brightness ahead for the future of this place. The future is looking very dim. People leaving the country. You got a bunch of preppers. It's a high level of uncertainty for Babylon and even around the world. All right, but going back where it says, in the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble. All right, now when you look up economy, because you got Wall Street, they deal with the stocks, basically the monetary system, the banking system, the Dow, and let me do this. Just look up the word economy. I remember the elder apostles going into this years ago. All right, so the word economy, it says from 1530s, household management, from Latin oikonomia. All right, so that's basically what it. When you go back to the Latin, then you go back to the Greek. All right. It says from Greek oikonomia, household management, thrift. And that's what they do at Wall Street. Okay. So they're going to basically tremble. All right. And that's basically what this is signaling right here. All right. The soaring prices of silver, copper, all these precious metals. So I let you know, where things are heading economically. It says 2025 has been a smashing year for those that invested in precious metals. The price of copper is up about 30% since the start of the year, and the price of silver has risen 128% during that same time period. That must mean that they're not minting as much as they used to. So I'm pretty sure there's a scarcity of silver, so that's why it's in high demand. So they're raising the value. It says, I have been saying we have never seen anything like this before. A lot lately, but this is yet another case where that is entirely true. Needless to say, what we have been witnessing is not welcome news for those that have been trying to keep silver prices and copper prices suppressed. In recent weeks, big losses have turned into even bigger losses as things haven't gone their way. The big financial institutions in the Western world that have been attempting to suppress prices are fighting a losing battle because the AI revolution is going to require vast amounts of physical silver and physical copper. All right. And, these metals, they matter for AI for a reason, because AI, they run on computing hardware. The use of, semiconductor microchips, servers, data centers, networking equipment, etc. So the manufacturers, they rely on ranges of metals, and I believe silver is the best electrical conductor of all metals. All right, and they have a high thermal conductivity. So they're going to have to use a lot of these metals, for this whole AI revolution, for them to set up this, the image of the beast, to give life to it. All right. So that's why it's in high demand. It says, at this stage, it would take a truly apocalyptic event to stop the construction of the thousands of colossal data centers that are currently going up all over the globe. All these developing countries, they all are going to need the use of these metals, globally. Okay. It says, at the same time, there has been a worldwide explosion in demand for physical silver from individual investors as paper currencies rapidly lose their purchasing power. Yeah, the dollar is waning in value because it's a deceitful weight. It's an unjust balance. The scriptures say. The scriptures say an unjust balance is an abomination. All right, the dollar is basically a unit of measure, but its value is very weak. So back, when you had the silver standard, you would be able to hand in a silver dollar or silver certificate, and you would be able to get you an ounce of silver. But now in American dollars, now it's gonna take you over $70 just to get you 1 ounce of silver. So the dollar is trash, man. Let me get a Micah real quick. Micah was a 6. It's a lot. And Micah the 6th chapter, and we're gonna go to the 10th verse, and it says, "Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and a scant measure that is abominable?" And of course, the man of sin, he's the border of wickedness. He came up with this, treasure of wickedness, the dollar. All right, came up with the idea in Jekyll Island, and the rest was history. All right. It says, when you look up the word, let me read the next verse, but I'm going to go back up to 10. It says, shall I count them pure with the wicked balances and with the bag of deceitful weights? And the value is always constantly changing. But ultimately, this devil, the more he prints out, the more he spends, the more he accumulates debt. And it tells you that in Habakkuk, the second chapter, around the fifth or sixth verse, it says that he laden himself with thick clay, and that thick clay is a heavy debt. But the bankers, they're the ones who's putting you in the debt. They're loaning to everybody through these banks, and the people that get the loans, they're getting further down in that debt hole, and that gives more power, to the bankers. So everybody pretty much are debt slaves to the bankers. All right, and they want to be the control of all monetary systems. You got to go through them. You had what was the name of the dude who was the CEO of Cash App? They put him to death. These crypto billionaires, they was getting put to death a few years ago because they don't want any middlemen anymore. All right, they want to be the ones to lend, and you be the tail. They be the head, you be the tail. That they shall lend to you, but you shall not lend to them. So when you go up to verse 10 and you look up the word scant, the word is raza 1, and it says thinness, leanness, scant. All right, leanness, the quality of having little fat, often seen as desirable state of being thin, fit. All right, that's in a different context. But basically, it's the value is thinning out, especially when you have more of it in circulation. I mean, it happened during the Roman Empire, where the government of Rome was constantly spending. They had a lot of expenses, and they was constantly at war, which that costs. So the denarius, which was the currency of Rome, it was diminishing in its value. So they had to water it down with other metals. And to keep the people from going crazy and rioting, they had to keep the people distracted with bread and circuses, much like what they're doing today with all this entertainment. The Jake Pauls and these the playoffs, NFL season. In a couple months, it's gonna be another Super Bowl. So everybody's mind is gonna be elsewhere when this devil he's working on pushing forward with his New World agenda. There's a big transformation that's happening, and certain people are still oblivious. But like the scriptures tell us, lest Satan should get an advantage of us if we're not ignorant of his devices. All right. So anyway, let's go back to the article. So it says, I'll read that part again. It says, at the same time, there has been a worldwide explosion in demand for physical silver from individual investors as paper currencies rapidly lose their purchasing power. Yeah, because, silver, just like gold, all right, precious metals, they always been the natural currency of the earth. We've been trading with it since the beginning of time. So the value is always going to be what it is. It's the dollar that's been losing its value. So the purchasing power is done for. Matter of fact, let me get this scripture in Revelation. We always bring this out as well. This is another hyperinflation scripture. It is Revelation 6, and I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." So a day's of wages would only be affordable to buy you a loaf of barley wheat. That's basically what that's saying. A measure of barley wheat, a loaf of wheat bread, or 3 loaves of barley, that's going to cost you a day's of work, a day's pay. This is in the NLT. It says, "And I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay." And back then, they was using a denarius, which was a silver coin, but they had to water it down. All right. It says, "And don't waste the olive oil and wine." All right. And then what comes with that? Famine. Because once food become too expensive to buy, or you could buy less things with, more of its currency, you buying less things with more of its currency, eventually, people ain't gonna be able to afford to get the food. People gonna start getting desperate, and they just gonna start taking the food out of the stores, looting, food riots, austerity measures, civil unrest. They experienced that in Venezuela some years ago. They experienced that in Zimbabwe. They experienced that during the Weimar Republic. So there's nothing new under the sun. So, yeah, and these people finna be in a very bad space. The scriptures talk about the beginning of sorrows, man. So people are going to be in great distress. All right. It's going to be a lot of hardship. And that's going to bring the pride down from these people. Many great misery shall be done to them in the latter days that walked on the earth, because they walked in great pride. So you're going to start to see it more and more, man. People are burnt out, tired of, the hamster's wheel. People are just saying F it. So it's almost that great travail, man, that labor pain. And the Lord's going to turn it up more. And that's why us, we got to prepare ourselves, mentally and spiritually. The scriptures say in that day to be even as pilgrims upon the earth. Get you ready to the battle. And don't be attached to anything here. All right. If you bought a home, be as though you're not going to live in that home. All right. You whatever the case may be. So let me go back. It says this has particularly been true in Asia. In fact, there was so much demand for physical silver in India a couple of months ago that it actually caused severe physical shortages. The Indian silver market has been gripped by an unprecedented silver squeeze in October 2025, sending prices to historic highs and creating severe physical shortages. This crisis, fueled by a unique blend of festive demand, speculative buying, and a constrained global supply, has been immediate and significant implications not only within India but also across international bullion markets. The traditional festive season of Dhanteras and Diwali has ignited a buying frenzy, pushing domestic silver prices to record levels, with physical market premiums skyrocketing and global ripple effects causing scarcity even in major bullion hubs. All right, it says you can argue that what has been going on in India lately is just temporary hysteria. But what isn't temporary is the steadily increasing industrial demand for physical silver. They need it for AI, this big AI transformation. That's why there's a high demand for it. All right. And those of you that stocked up silver, years back, I remember the apostles, Apostle Tahar in particular, but the other apostles as well, they went into how, you should, diversify your portfolio of money, maybe put some money to the side and start investing in some silver. And now look what's happening now. Now, we're not saying that that's going to be what's going to save you. All right, riches will not profit in that day. But it for the moment, especially in the time of economic hardship, it is a defense, and the scriptures say so. Let me get that in Ecclesiastes. I believe it's 7. I think it's like the 12th verse. Yeah, Ecclesiastes 7:12, it says, wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Let me get the KJV. It says, for wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. All right, which is what I stated in the beginning of the lesson. Ultimately, this knowledge and wisdom, that's our true currency. That's what's going to get us up out of here. Knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of your times and the strength of your salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. All right. But, for the time being, money can be a defense. We just don't put our sole trust in it. Okay. You look up the word money here. The word is kasap. Yeah, kasap, and it means silver. Okay. By implication, money, price, silver. Money, silver as a metal, as an ornament, as color, money, shekels, talents. So it could be a defense because it is valuable. It's a hedge against debt. It's a hedge against hyperinflation. All right. And, it wouldn't be nothing wrong with, doing that, storing up some silver. All right. And let me go back. So it says high industrial demand for silver, too, has been driving up prices for months. The Silver Institute, an international nonprofit industry group, has observed. A December report from the Institute further declares silver the next generation metal, calling it an essential component across multiple high growth sectors as industries race to embrace digital innovation and meet clean energy mandates. Because that's another thing. It's use in clean solar energy, all the equipment and technology that pushes and, bring that to fruition. It uses these metals like silver. Okay. It says physical silver is literally used in thousands upon thousands of high tech products, and many are convinced that what we are witnessing today is just the beginning. Yeah. This is an AI revolution, man. Now I went to ChatGPT and I just asked it, why is the value of silver and copper increasing? And it says the value or price of silver and copper has been increasing mainly because of a mix of high demand, limited supply, and global economic trends. Here are the key reasons explained simply. Growing demand from technology and clean energy. Both metals are essential for modern tech. Copper is heavily used in electric vehicles, which they're saying in the next 5 years, they're going to stop manufacturing fuel infused vehicles, vehicles that use oil, gas. They're going to stop making those, and you're just going to go completely electric. And they were already advertising that to you in that was that episode in on Black Mirror, Nosedive, I think. You know, when they were showing how they had the social credit system, and when that the Edomite lady, when she was about to leave to the wedding, you know, she was trying to, you know, get the means to travel, and she was going to try to go by plane, but she lost her shit, and they wouldn't allow her to actually get on because she didn't have a sufficient amount of credits. So what did she end up doing when she got escorted out of the airport? She went and got her an electrical vehicle. You know, parked at a station, a charging station. And what do you have now? You got a bunch of Teslas. People driving in those. I'll never ride in one of those. That's dangerous as hell. Because once they go out, once they lose power, that's it. You locked in there. If it catches fire, you're not getting out. So there's been several deaths, you know, in with that vehicle. But this is the growing trend. All right, it says electric vehicles, power grids. You know, they've been testing that out. You know, San Francisco just got their grid knocked off. Some of them are still without power, so you know that they testing right now. It says renewable energy, solar, wind, electronics, and construction. As countries invest more in electrification, copper demand rises. Silver is used in solar panels, electronics, medical devices. The push for green energy has especially boosted silver demand. It says two, supply constraints. Mining new copper and silver is slow and expensive. Some mines are producing less due to low quality ore, environmental regulations, labor and energy costs. When supply can't keep up with demand, prices go up. See that? Especially if it takes a lot more money just to make it, because the dollar is poor. The purchasing power is poor, man. So everything is more expensive now. It says inflation and investment demand. During inflation or economic uncertainty, investors often buy precious metals. This is why a lot of people have been, you know, what they call stacking, right? It says silver benefits from this because it's both an industrial metal and an investment. You know, it's a defense. Increased buying by investors pushes prices higher. Global economic shifts. Developing countries are expanding infrastructure. Governments are funding large projects, energy, transport, housing. Those projects use huge amounts of copper and some silver. And then, of course, the weak currencies, especially the US dollar, it's getting ready to get phased out. So you know what's going to come next. What are we going to have to use in order to buy and sell? Because we're not going to be using the dollar anymore. So what are you going to be buying and selling with? It's going to be a particular mark that you're going to need in order to make purchases, to do financial transactions. All right. It says metals are priced in US dollars. When a dollar weakens, metals often become more expensive in dollar terms. That's exactly what we're seeing right now as we speak. It went up 128% this year. All right. And it can continue to surge going into 2026. So yeah, that's it on that. So, you know, this is what we're experiencing, and this is how you know that this is a signal that you know, we're getting ready to go into a different system. All right. And Esau, he's putting all his money, he's putting all his eggs in this one basket. You know, and they're hoping like hell that they succeed, which temporarily they will. All right. Because it tells you that in Job, the 20th chapter, that he's, you know, when he fills his belly. Let's go to that in Job. And that's why it tells us in the Psalm, you know, don't even fret yourself because of the evildoer. He's prospering in his wickedness and in his devices, his wicked devices. Don't fret. All right, the Lord is working on his man. All right, this Job 20. Yeah, 20 and 20 says, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. Because the Lord's getting ready to strip him. He's going to go from having everything to nothing. He's going to be in a pit. He's not going to have any power, no wealth, no respect, no nothing. He's going to be insignificant, like he was from the get-go. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. That's the laborers, the toilers, that's sick and tired. They're burnt out, and they realize the wealth discrepancies, the wealth disparity. The super rich, the billionaires and trillionaires, the 1%, and everybody else is pretty much destitute. Working and slaving and don't really have a pot to piss in. So they're going to come after the elite and the super rich. That's why eventually they're going to try to move underground into these deep underground military bunkers. The dumbs, they call them. All right. It says when he's about to fill his belly, right, you about to get that last little taste in, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. All right. And that's when the Lord's going to finally, come down. All right. And trample that wine press. And then he's going to have these nations, starting with the Russians, on all the nations that are assembled with them. They're going to launch off and get off all their nuclear arsenal on Babylon. All right. Then the hammer of the earth will be broken in pieces. It says, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body, when the missile cometh up out of that silo from under the ground. Yet a glittering sword cometh out of his gall, terrors are upon him. All right. So the Lord's going to throw that monkey wrench. He's going to disappoint the hands of the crafty, that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So we in that time right now, man. So we just got to, stay prayed up and continue to watch, because our mind should be occupied in prophecy as it is written. All right, the hell with these sellout and these, these apostates. That while they're switching up the doctrine, thinking that Israel's going to have to now unlearn everything and now come up under them and learn under them, we're too far in the game for that. So those dudes, they're just going to, continue to play the role of the false prophets and teachers. That's going to sift out, those that are not of the Lord's sheep. While we focus on, bigger fish like prophecy. We're going to defend the gospel, but we're also going to, deal with prophecy as well. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Y'all could read the rest of this. I'll try to put a link to this in the description. But this is how you know that, we're in the midst of that transformation. This is signaling that a crash is imminent, and that they're going to, do away with the old system and in with the new. Everything is pretty much going to be controlled by AI, this global technocracy. All right. And it's going to, the times are going to get hectic, but that's when we're going to have to lean on our faith. All right. Faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, man. He said, cast thy burdens upon the Lord and he shall sustain thee. So believe that. All right. And anyway, with that, I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone. Peace, blessings, and citation to the elect. Shalom.